My name's Travis Adam Wright. I'm a screenwriter based in Los Angeles. Look over there on the right hand side.
Right.
Basically, starting on the left is Red World, which was my first script with.
Where am I looking here?
No, go all the way to the door, right?
Okay.
So, right there you have Red World, which is the spec I wrote with John Glenn in I think we started in '97. We were shooting a short film at UCLA in grad school, and JG and I drove out to Joshua Tree with a DP friend of mine, and literally, as we were out there in the middle of the desert, he was like, I really want to have kids. You're the only person I know who's sold out already. Because I sold out before I started. I was always like, how do we get on big movie, how do studios hire people? So, and once I committed to kind of being in this business, which I was I guess just out of college, maybe 21.
Then you got Journey?
Yeah, so then we sold this spec Red World, which basically was you open on the 10 freeway and there's no cars, there's just billions of bicycles. And LA is New Beijing, the Chinese rule the world.
Oh, wow.
And Bruckheimer bought it in 3 hours when we were out on a Monday. Because we'd actually slipped it to his CE guy. No, our agents didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. So they had to jump on the town, which they were kind of pissed about. It probably cost us some money. But I have no complaints. I mean, it was we were all of a sudden Bruckheimer boys, and then we did a remake of Journey to the Center of the Earth that didn't get made. If you saw The Beneath, I feel like that was our movie, really. Because it was a horror movie underground, basically.
Oh, wow.
Because the only reason I would go see Journey to the Center of the Earth is not to see the Brendan Fraser version, whatever, true to the book. Ours was more, I mean, it was Jules Verne saying, "What if?" But it was in 1860,
right,
when they didn't know anything about science.
Yeah.
So his basic science is so flawed that it's I couldn't get my head around the Brendan Fraser version, but which of course is the version that gets made.
Yeah.
Then I did a remake of The Warriors that Tony Scott's attached to direct, but I think it's a motorcycle movie set in LA now. Our original pitch for that was on 9/11. We had to we called to move it, and they're like, "Dude, the studios aren't open. The whole world shut down."
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was crazy. Then Clash of Titans. We were the first. We were writer A in that arbitration, but we just didn't end up with credit. The film isn't out yet, so I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't talk about it. Then I actually got paid to write the sequel to Blade Runner, which no one knows about. But I mentioned it in Eagle Eye Screening. There's a hate site. You can go Google Blade Runner 2 in my name, and they'll see all these people being he fucking sucks. I want to kill him. Hack.
Wow.
Just crazy, some angry 14-year-olds. And then I did a film called Radiant for McG at Sony. It's a modern day Knights on motorcycles, set in San Francisco and Northern California in the Redwoods. And then Eagle Eye. So that was all with this guy John Glenn. And then he directed a film that I was a producer on called The Lazarus Project is what it ended up being. It was called The Heaven Project for a long time with Paul Walker. Okay. It ended up being sold directly to video with they didn't get it to domestic release.
Still, pretty
well, it was one of those big lesson thing, which is they basically had a 1,200 screen commitment, I think, from Sony. Yeah. Who was the output deal first look for the financing entity, and rather they wanted more money, so they had a screening for all the distributors, thinking that then someone would poach it from them.
Right.
And all the distributors were like,
I don't think so.
well, no, yeah, it's like, yeah, so, and so then all of a sudden it was like, boom, like, I don't know, you just have to be careful. That wasn't my decision, and whatever, stuff happens. So, anyway, just getting in the flow of things.
Yeah.
So then, on the left-hand side, you can't see from here, but there's basically all my, all the scripts I haven't sold yet, that I've been working on since the strike.
How many would you say you've written total?
I mean, with JG, we wrote 7 features, 6 features, and 5 or 6 TV shows. I'd only written 2 or 3 specs before that while I was in grad school. I'd written only this. I rewrote a Western over and over again. That was my first script when I kind of did classes at UCLA Extension. And then it really, that's what's kind of strange. Is like I was on my 4th script, I think, when I started writing with JG. And usually I think you're a little bit deeper in your scripts, like when you start working with people. Or some people haven't written scripts on their own. I mean, the difference between my partnership with John Glenn and I think some partnerships is that you usually are kind of compensating for each other's weaknesses. We were just like both, I felt both competent for the job and then had to figure out how to split duties equally and feel good about it, which, I don't know, the rule of thumb for writing partnerships, it's like a Hollywood joke. It's twice the fun for half the pay.
Right.
And if the equation gets inverted, maybe you shouldn't write together anymore.
Yeah. Huh.
But he really became a director, so.
Were you born out here, or where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Arizona, in Phoenix. I was born in Tucson right when my dad got back from Vietnam. He was a fighter pilot. I was born in 1970. And they just happened to live there for like 6 months, and then he, was stationed in a bunch of places in the South. And then my mom and dad split up when I was a little kid, like in kindergarten in Key West, Florida. And so my mom went back to college in Seattle, and she was a single mom paralegal with 2 kids, kind of like the, Michelle Monaghan character in Eagle Eye. It's kind of based on my mom. And the Jerry Shaw and his brother. I had a brother who was kind of a screw up when we were kids. I remember when Back to the Future came out, the brother in Back to the Future worked at Burger King, and my brother worked at Burger King. We had the same uniform. And So I totally, I'm a huge Zemeckis fan.
So you, I'm sorry, where did you grow up at?
In Phoenix.
You
kind of ended up in Phoenix after my mom went to college.
So you went back to Phoenix?
We went back to Arizona, but we weren't really from Arizona when I was born.
Right. That's cool. No, that's where I learned how to screenwrite, was at the Arizona Screenwriters Association.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Did you grow up in Arizona?
No, I just moved there to learn to screenwrite.
Really?
Coming out here, yeah.
Well, that's funny, go to Phoenix to learn how to screenwrite.
So, now, what was like growing up? I know your mom was a single mom. Was she very supportive of you writing, or?
I remember my mom always saying, we'd be watching TV, like a bad commercial, and she'd go, "You can do a better job than that. That commercial sucked."
Yeah.
My mom, I've had ex-girlfriends who call my mom the drill sergeant, because she's very, like, flat and dry, and, I think that, I don't know, yes, she was supportive. She's all about education, and really it was because of her that I went to the private high school in Phoenix called Phoenix Country Day School, which, sounds like, I would tell people I went to Camelback High School or Shadow Mountain because I was embarrassed that I went to Phoenix Country Day.
Yeah.
PCDS. But it was kind of like the rich kid school in my mind, and I was the only kid who took the public bus freshman year.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Who had to go sit on the bus stop and feel stupid when everyone drove by in the Mercedes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that stuff.
Well,
But, I don't know. I always worked. I got a job in 4th grade. I had a paper route from 4th grade to 8th grade, and then I worked at KB Toy Store. I sold toys, I did roofing. I was one of those Phoenix, I was one of those enterprising kids who just always had something going on.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I know exactly how I was door-to-door salesman,
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's, I was really good in customer service. I worked the front desk of a hotel in Kansas City one summer. Basically, because my dad and mom were divorced, in the summers, I went to wherever my dad was living and got a job.
Oh, wow.
So I was like a busboy in Kansas City, then I was a front desk clerk in Kansas City at the same hotel, and I basically was a busboy, and the general manager, there was a big argument, and I went over, I don't know what happened, something like customers mad, and I kind of smoothed it out, and he goes, "We need you at the front desk to just made me a front desk clerk.
That's cool.
With like all the 25-year-olds, and I was like,
do you find
17.
Well, I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
When did you realize you wanted to work in the industry?
John Glenn, who later became a writing partner, was at Student Art Center, and he was actually my best friend's older brother growing up. So he was kind of like my brother. And once we were in college, kind of everyone's the same age, and my best friend was still back in Arizona for the most part. So I just started hanging out with him in Pasadena because I was out in Claremont as an undergrad. So my escape from college would be to like go hang out with his friends who were all like actor, musician, doing the waiter thing.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like 8 years later, what all my friends were doing then is what all those people were doing while I was in college.
Oh wow.
So I kind of like, the whole Pasadena in the late 80s before Old Town was just like a construction site. There was nothing there. But it was cool. Like, it was kind of very east. It feels like Silver Lake to me now. That was Pasadena.
Then.
Like in the mid, or whatever, I guess that was late 80s.
Is that when you moved out? Was it late 80s?
Yeah, I was 89 in high school and then 93 in college.
So who were some of your role models?
In terms of filmmaking, in terms of writing, I think Paddy Chayefsky, who wrote Network. Do you see Network? He wrote Carnal Knowledge. No, he didn't write Carnal Knowledge. Did he write Carnal Knowledge? What was the William Holden movie where he kind of like communes with God in a way, like he becomes pure energy at the end, the evolution. It's a really smart script. Altered States.
Altered
States, he goes in that depth thing.
Right,
That's Paddy Chayefsky. William Holden, I think. William Holden's an actor. William Goldman, wrote Adventures in the Screen Trade. I think that was the first book I ever read by a screenwriter. That was like... Gregory Dunn, Joan Didion's husband, has written a lot of books about being a screenwriter.
Oh yeah, I haven't checked.
Yeah, he just died a couple years ago. I really liked their script for Up Close and Personal, which was, it wasn't a great movie, but it was Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer, when they were still like Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer, but I don't know.
Did you ever have to like put yourself up in like a hotel or sleep in your car or anything when you moved out here, or was it just?
JG actually took his Mustang and put his mattress on the top when he was 18 and just drove out from Arizona.
Wow.
I did the transition. I lived in college. I was in college and then, I lived in basically an old, what was built to be a whorehouse in South Pasadena when I got out of college, which had these tiny rooms and it had a little room with a door so the John could wait and not see the other John and exit into the hallway.
Right.
So these tiny rooms with like 5 doors in the apartment.
Wow.
It was very funny. But I've certainly gone to bed hungry and not paid rent on time and
what would you say your biggest struggles were?
$40 in a card game I shouldn't have bet $40. It meant I wasn't eating the next day, But I've always worked, so it's not like I never starved. But
have you ever had any trouble finding work or college?
Well, I was a waiter right after college, and then when I was taking classes at night at Art Center. Basically, JG, that's John Glenn, right when I was graduating from school, wanted me to turn some short stories I wrote into short films. And I'd never read a script before. It never occurred to me you could have a career in film.
Wow.
So I... sorry, I should put this in. So, I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly.
Like, some of the biggest struggles, just,
look, there's struggles on a couple different levels. I think there's emotional struggles in terms of, like, can I do the work that's required of me to write a script that's great, that I think is great and can sell, and still maintain a healthy relationship with a woman I love, or, with your friends, or whatever's going on. I think I don't know any writers who, at least their relationship doesn't take a backseat sometimes, because deadlines speak.
Right. I'm totally with you there.
It's a hard, hard reality.
Have you thought about, was there ever a moment where you're like, just fuck it, I'm going to give up?
I'm very methodical, and so part of my thing is when I started temping at Disney, I was a waiter with all these guys who were, not that much younger than I am now. right? So I'm like, you're in your late 30s, and I remember I worked with all these guys who were like late 30s when I was like 20.
Right.
And they'd all written a stack of scripts, and you'd read them and be like, wow, that dude should win Oscars. Like, he's amazing. Mm-hmm. And he has the same job as me, and we make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And he knows everything about Hollywood. And that kind of worried me. Like, I don't want to become that guy. So, and I like that guy. Here's a guy that beats me in poker and who's smarter than me, who, you know what I mean, who's 18 years older than me, who clearly gets it, but there's a disconnect. So I was like, well, who hires people? Okay, well, VPs at studios. How do I go work for one of those? So I started temping at Disney, and then it's hard to get into the creative group, so I started in marketing, and I worked in post, and next thing, I'd never had a job where I didn't have whoever I was working for offer me a job.
So it was always moving forward.
Yeah, so it was great. So I got really lucky, and then I was always requested as a temp. I think maybe I didn't get hired 1 week, and then I was like, screw it, I'm getting a job, because I like the whole waking up and like calling, is there work, is there a thing, is just annoying. Yeah. And I'm just not, I couldn't be an actor, I can't take rejection. Like, I couldn't go in, walk into a room, and people, you don't even talk, and people are like, nah, they're not right.
Right.
I'm not built that way.
Well, have you noticed any changes since the late 80s to now? I mean, in the business?
Well, look, there's flaming holes in the ground where there are people who used to have careers.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, I always say you don't fail in Hollywood, you give up.
Yeah.
You give up and go, oh, I'd rather do, like, there's easier ways of making a living or feeling better about myself or whatever reason you get into writing, I have no idea. It's certainly not to get relationships or to make life easier. If I could do something else that fulfills me in the same way, I don't know. I'm just like I'm a huge Ray Bradbury fan, and he came and spoke at my college, and he talked about how he knows what to write because it's like a demon on his back that has its claws in him, and until he writes the story, it won't let him go. And like that's when he knows he has the right story, and I like to think that. I don't know, you get busy enough where there's a bunch of demons on your back, and then it just, how do you get them all off? And it drives you crazy sometimes. I think, I've certainly been in that zone just in the last 24 hours. Oh. But, all's good now. I mean, it's Saturday.
That's a good relaxed day, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's working out day.
Well, that's cool, man.
Pardon me.
That's no problem. Have you had to travel outside of LA to work at all?
I mean, again, once you're I've been a screenwriter now since 2000. I've never been asked to go to a set. When Eagle Eye got made, it was during the writer's strike, so we couldn't visit the set.
Right.
We made, the Heaven Project's a great example, which is the thing that John Glenn directed. Look, we love to make it in LA. We're LA based. He had 3 kids at the time. I mean, he still has 3 kids, but they were young, young 3 kids. And, I think all of them were under 6 or 7, actually. And, you had to go to Winnipeg.
Go to Canada, definitely.
Just to be able to afford to make the movie.
Wow.
At a price.
What do you think would be a good solution to try to keep more of those features here? I mean, is it tax incentives?
I think it's got to be simple, like tax incentives. Well, the thing is, tax incentives is a thing that financiers understand. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, it's not a world that I traffic in daily. I'm probably getting a little closer to it ever since, I did some interview right when Eli came out for the WGA, and they're like, what would you do now?
Yeah.
And it really kind of messed me up for like months, because I think my canned answer was, I would go make a film and just do it, because there's people, it's like grow your flower. The whole town's full of people whose job it is to pick flowers.
Right.
And all the writers I've ever known just sit around obsessing about who's going to buy their flower and how pretty it is and what kind of leaf should it have, instead of just like tell the best story possible with the most conflict and, pray for the best while you're starting your next project moving forward.
For sure.
But let me think more about the better answer for your thing in terms of incentives. No, it's weird. I mean, the French just passed this thing trying to go on the New Mexico model too, where the Ile-de-France region in kind of Paris and the region since Ile-de-France. So they it's kind of a tax shelter on the New Mexico model. I mean, with its crazy French spin, but it's only for certain productions, like within a certain budget range, and the money has to be coming from abroad, and you have to spend a certain amount there.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in like how do we flat tax things, how do we expedite things.
Right.
I know they've done a lot. I mean, I know the mayor isn't Villaraigosa. I feel like he's done a lot in terms of fast tracking some low budget filming permits and stuff like that.
I think they have, but I think for the most part, it seems like things are still expensive. For like the Hollywood sign is like what, $5,000 to put in your shot of anything, or it's just little things like that start adding up. Is what wonder if we can just do like a per budget type of situation, or something where we get more filmmakers making more films. Let's see here. Do you know anyone had like the potential to make it but ended up giving up? Do you know like a firsthand?
I mean, I know a lot of writer friends who've never sold anything or only sold one or two things and not worked again. I mean, the hard truth is when you sell a script in Hollywood, they send you a letter from the WGA that's like, congratulations, welcome to WGA. Like, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Most people never work again. It's like 0.001%. I mean, some crazy percentage of people actually sell a second script.
Really?
Which is why when JG and I sold Red World, we were like, okay, let's go get an assignment. We ended up doing Journey Center of the Earth. Like, that was like 6 weeks after we sold our first thing, I think. I mean, it was really soon. And it was a project that actually had started. We had started talking to them, and I think slipped them Red World, like, as a writing sample.
Oh.
And then they were like, okay. I think that helped sell our second thing, and then we were in the system.
How did you get that first foot in the door?
I wrote the biggest movie idea possible. And someone bought it. So, I mean, for me, I think really we sold it because of that opening image.
Did you have an agent at that time? Or did you have representation?
We actually, I had friends who were VPs around town.
Okay.
So really my friend Lauren, one of the couple of key people helped. And it's funny because some people pushed but weren't necessarily the ones that you came through with. I had a friend, Abe Abdelhadi, who was the CE for Dean Kane's company. I think it was like Drag Entertainment or something. It was like just as Lois and Clark was ending. Kind of set the scene. Maybe he was doing Ripley's at that point, I don't know. But, they wanted him for a series. He could have done anything he wanted. And, so my friend was in that job, and, he's a junior level TV exec.
Right.
And we're kind of writing these big Hollywood, like, tentpole feature specs. And he gave it to a TV agent's assistant named Adrian Laudermilk, who became a producer and like died right after he set up his first project.
Oh, wow.
Actually, he's the first person I know who died just as he made it. After struggling as an assistant, which was he was an amazing guy, Adrian. So Adrian read it, liked it. Actually, and this was AMG, Artist Management Groups, which was Mike Ovis' company. Like when he came back to manage after he left Disney.
Okay.
So. For all these guys, knew it was the next CA. I mean, who knows? This is like when I call them agents, were like just happening. So, the idea that your agent can also produce stuff. I mean, that's really how I look at manager.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because I know it's a legal thing. I don't know. I'm probably upsetting people just by saying that. But so AMG signed us off Red World and went out with it as a spec. But a lot of other agencies had passed, or there were people who were fans but just weren't committing to signing us, or they didn't want to read anything else. They just wanted to take it out.
Yeah.
Which to me means they're just hip-pocketing you, and they only care about whether they can sell it. If they don't, goodbye.
Yeah.
Which really not. I maybe shouldn't mind that so much. Like looking back. Who are we to be like, hey, look, they want to take it out. Let them take it out.
I've been there.
Yeah. And ironically, my senior agent now is Phil Raskin, who was one of those guys who wasn't a partner yet, and I think whoever is more senior than him passed on us when they gave him the script, and he called and said, I'm sorry, we're like,
Yeah.
But it's nice that they're calling you back and telling you those things. Yeah. I mean, usually it's like radio silence, I think. I mean, I think that's one of the frustrating things is that you send things out into the world and you don't get any feedback back because no one's telling you your script sucks or why, or that they're just too busy to read it, or who knows, that whole... I have a friend who's produced, major movies who, put a call in to try to get a piece of material to someone through, like, an agency, and the agency wouldn't, like, take his submission because it wasn't coming from an agency or manager.
Right.
which is it. So like, it's just funny how that still can pervade no matter what your credits are. Like there's that whole, how do you get by this first threshold Guardians?
Well, now that you're where you're at, do you feel that people are calling you, or are you still sending out the material to?
I like to think I'm incoming call rather than outgoing call. I mean, I got lucky in that because we sold our first thing to Bruckheimer, and then no stinkers got made in a way. So even though it was frustrating for me to write 7 studio features and have none of them get made till Eagle Eye, at least when the first one got made, it didn't suck. Right. Which was my big worry. That's which cool. Is, you make your first movie and then you're like, hey, I made Last Action Hero. Yeah. Like, yay, you know what I mean? And then those guys had to suffer, David, I got really lucky in 2 ways, is that I've been really blessed throughout my whole life in terms of finding, the psychology term I guess would be resilient child. I'd find caregivers in my environment or something, like Obi-Wan Kenobi's floating around. So one of my mentors was David Koepp, and another one was Michael Cleary, who wrote Face Off. So when I was in the professional program at UCLA, just this night program, you pay like $3,000 to be in. One of the best kept secrets in Hollywood, actually.
I actually went to those.
Because you're basically in the master's program for $3,000. Yeah. So it's the same professors, and like 30% of the people who get into the master's program went through the professional program. I think it was only in its second year when I was there. So, we didn't have all the great stats thing, and I probably couldn't have got in now or then, had it been as competitive as it is now.
Right, yeah.
But Michael Cleary, who wrote Face Off, sold that while we were in the middle of it, so we got to watch him go through that cycle. And then David Koepp came back to teach a class, and this is coming off of, he hadn't written Spider-Man yet. He was reading Snake Eyes for De Palma, and he had our class pitch De Palma our stories. Oh, wow. So it was literally there's you, there's Ryan De Palma, the class is over there out of your peripheral vision, and literally people's hands were shaking under the table. It was, people cried. He was mean. It was brutal. He's like, I'm going to tell you exactly what people are thinking. And I remember this one girl whose script I knew, she's pitching some romantic thing, and he's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't follow you. Wow. And she's like, are you stupid? Literally, she asked me if he was stupid or something, and he just it was went weird, Oh, wow. And anyway, and you're thinking, wow, is that what it's like? Yeah. I worked a desk and rolled calls, and I was an assistant for VP of development for 14 months. So those are to me, that's where I learned most of what I know about the business that I don't really necessarily use every day, but when you're in a meeting and someone's phoning it in, you can feel it.
So you worked for a VP, or you worked as assistant development and all that. You looked at a lot of scripts, you've written a lot of scripts. What do you think about reality TV coming in? And
look, I enjoy reality TV, so I'm kind of a hypocrite. I mean, I don't want the death of the drama. I understand. What I personally would like to do is find a hybrid, production-wise, that can give me the narrative fulfillment that I want. It's like an audience member / person creating it. I don't know. I like The Hills. Those kind of things that are slice of life. But even though they're fake. They're a fake slice of life, which is what's frustrating when you're someone who makes up fake shit that's supposed to look real anyway. Yeah. So, I don't like that it's hurting our business, but I do enjoy Survivor. I do like The Amazing Race.
It's interesting.
I have a reality show I haven't taken out yet called Indians in India, which is you've never seen Native Americans interact with the people they're named after. Right, yeah. So we're going to take a group of Native American writers and artists and Holy Man and whoever else we can get to come with us, and gonna drive around for a month and go to Dharamsala and meet the Dalai Lama. That's cool. That's the whole show. Wow. Whether someone's gonna want to fund that,
right? But it's reality TV. It's interesting, man. It's an interesting thought. That's what it's all about. Where do you see Hollywood going? With this reality trend in the next 5-10 years.
I don't know. I mean, I think that we're either studios are gonna figure out how to make bigger, leaner, better movies that treat the audience like they're smart. Okay. I feel like the movies talk down to the audience. It's kind of like sitcoms, like Frasier. Right. Frasier talked up to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? He used words I don't know. But I know a lot of words. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you didn't. But it wasn't alienating in a way. And while I don't write comedy, it's I'm trying to do the same equivalent, and it's challenging for me because you want to be involved in Lord of the Rings, and I think that the studios would rather make Narnia.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that less prep time, less realistic effects, still good, but not as good as maybe Peter Jackson would have made it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, he's in New Zealand where people can't mess with him.
Right.
Or, you know what I'm saying? And they had a long lead time, and they had prep, and they had their own money, and, I mean, that's obviously a special film, but to me, like that, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., those are the benchmarks for me. Aliens, Blade Runner, like, how do you, The Firm, The Witness, I'm trying to think. So those were all the, how do you, I'm just trying to figure out how to make something at that level that doesn't suck, that can get made. And, I've only, Eagle Eye didn't get made because it's a script I worked on. It got made because Steven Spielberg was, like, his idea, and he pushed that through the system. And when Indiana Jones 3 came together, or 4, I'm sorry, he was obligated to do that, and then passed off to DJ Caruso, and, that was a happy accident for me in terms of, talk about a guy who's in, like, his Hitchcock wheelhouse, just on the run thriller. There was the perfect director to me at the perfect time with the young cast. Like, I got lucky to have your first film not suck, but to actually be proud of it. We got hammered by critics, but
it was a great film.
I mean, all the kids I know who, and I say kids being people from like 9 to 90 who enjoy shit because they're kids at heart. Like, the more times they see it, the more they like it, which to me was the whole point. Was I watch a film 20 times if I like it, and I get bored around number 3, but you can't help yourself. Like,
Well, you've been in this business 20-something years. What advice would you give to somebody who's just trying to break into what you're doing now?
Get together with your friends and just make stuff. Or if you can find people, I don't know, I'm going through a transition right now, personally, I think, kind of like the town is. For me, the writer's strike, as far as my writer's strike shirt, was really the defining moment in my writing career. In terms of, they gave me a lot of time to walk and think and, like, lose 30 pounds. And there's something about consistent cardio every morning when you're mad and marching and thinking, I'm not getting the second half of whatever deal I was in the middle of because they're going to force majeure everything. You know what I mean? Like, you just knew it was coming. And, I mean, I had a lot of friends who were very go-go guys in terms of, like, they were writing blogs under, anonymous things on Kevin Spacey's website thing, whatever. But they didn't, almost all of those people now are really bitter because they either lost a lot of money or they didn't get back in the cycle once the strike started again. And most of the friends I know have been hammered in their deals. I mean, it's just they got hammered. Because basically, we didn't come and say, give me 10% of everything. Because that's that's how you negotiate. Give me 10% of everything, I'll talk to you when you're at 9%. Like, we were like, oh, can we please have our 3.25% with our 1% increase that you promised us when you said VHS was a new technology? You know what I mean? Like, and these are things, by the way, that, like, only people who are getting stuff made and in the pipeline care about. It's the TV. I feel like that whole writer's strike happened because The Office, which is, such a phenomenal hit, had those webisodes. They're having writers write webisodes, but not paying them for them, not paying them for residuals. And then having advertising in front of it that they were getting money for, and saying, no, that's not for you. It's not for your show, that's free promotional stuff that we're running an ad in front of. And there's something about that even if you're, like, can't complete a sentence, the logic of that doesn't make sense. And I think that, to me, was the one thing that when people were marching around made sense to me, but doesn't affect me at all.
Well, one last thing.
Sure.
Say, Canadian studios call you today. We got 3 shows we want you to be staff writer on, but we need you to move and dedicate your life to Canada. Would you move for the money?
I mean, no, but I mean, I have family here, so I think that's, I think that has a lot to do with it. But if it's, hey, we got your film funded and we can shoot it in Canada or France or New Mexico or whatever, I'm there. Because, all I care about is getting the film made. If I can get the film made and stay here, even better.
So you just gotta go where the project's taking you.
Well, and for me, it's why my office is at this old place with a old TV studio down here because I would love to just like, if that entire thing was green screen and you had your set down there and did your green screen stuff,
Right.
you know, on a smaller scale. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to work in LA and then go shoot exteriors around the world in cool places.
Right.
So I mean, a lot of the shows that I'm developing have kind of an international element or a gimmick that can get you around, like Johnny Quest. You know, they have the plane in Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
I'm trying to write a plane at everything.
Right.
So then I don't think there's any reason why you can't shoot half your film here. The actors are based here. Like, if you can actually get a production going here, it's a better place to actually live your life and also work and make movies. But you know, unfortunately, most of the people I know, they spend most of their time traveling and away from home, who make movies for a living.
Well, I appreciate it, Travis. Thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.